Buckle up, because Eddie Griffin just dropped a truth bomb that'll rattle Hollywood like a late-night earthquake. So, here's the tea. Eddie Griffin and Malcolm Jamal Warner. Yeah, they weren't exactly besties in real life. In fact, there were more issues than a tabloid cover. But what Eddie's spilling now, it's a whole new level of jaw-dropping. Picture this. Every week before taping, these two would put aside their differences, hold hands, bow their heads, and pray together, showing respect. But now, Eddie's exposing the dark underbelly of Hollywood, and trust me, it's as shady as it gets. In Eddie's own words, Hollywood will throw millions at a random white talent, but when it came to Malcolm Jamal Warner, they were about as supportive as a broken chair. From Martin to Malcolm Jamal Warner's career, straight downhill, fast. Let's talk icons. Michael Jamal, they adored him, even as his world unraveled. Michael Jamal, he got sympathy while facing his demons, but Malcolm Jamal Warner, the industry, they erased him like he never even existed. No overdose, no public breakdown, no headline-worthy scandal. Eddie says they didn't need to pull the trigger, they killed him slowly, from the inside out. The elites, the producers, the industry, none of them wanted Malcolm Jamal Warner to speak his truth. They didn't want him standing tall or letting his light shine. Eddie remembers those late-night calls where Malcolm Jamal Warner's voice cracked with fear. And it doesn't stop there. No funeral, no public mourning, no tribute on national TV. He was buried in silence, and the world just kept moving on like nothing happened. But Eddie Griffin, he couldn't stay quiet anymore. On a dimly lit podcast, his voice cracked, fighting back tears, and he admitted, "I should have protected him. I should have done something. This wasn't some random incident. This wasn't fate. Oh no, this was a system built to crush anyone who dares to stand out." And Malcolm Jamal Warner, he was too pure for them, too honest, and let's face it, way too dangerous. And now, the ugly truth is finally out, and trust me, it's enough to keep you up at night. They told us not to question it, right? Told us it was just another child star fading into obscurity, another actor who simply slipped away, no big deal. But what if that's not the full story? What if Malcolm Jamal Warner didn't just fade? What if he was wiped out? For years, the world wondered, where did he go? Why did he disappear so quietly? No scandals, no juicy headlines, no epic downfall. Just ... gone. No goodbye, no tribute, not even a murmur of closure. And now, after decades of silence, Eddie Griffin couldn't hold it in anymore. On some low-key no-press podcast with practically no audience, Eddie Griffin broke down in real time. His hands shook, his eyes welled up, his voice cracked, because this wasn't just about Hollywood. This was a betrayal on another level. They didn't just kill his body, they murdered his spirit. Eddie Griffin whispered those words like they were too heavy to bear, almost choking on them. This wasn't some random event. This was a planned execution. A quiet, invisible death. The kind that leaves no bruises but breaks a man from the inside out. Malcolm Jamal Warner was America's son. We all watched him grow up, didn't we? From the lovable, smooth-talking Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show to the sharp, self-aware artist who refused to be a pawn in the Hollywood game. But that refusal, oh, it cost him everything. Eddie Griffin revealed that Malcolm Jamal Warner was struggling behind the scenes in ways we never saw. He was being pushed into roles that didn't align with who he truly was, his values, his voice, his entire essence. He didn't want to play the fool. He didn't want to be the same tired stereotype. And that terrified them. By them, Eddie Griffin means the studios, the execs, the gatekeepers of the industry. They dangled deals in front of him, all tied up with strings. He was told, play the game, and you'll have it all. Defy us, and you'll have nothing. Malcolm Jamal Warner chose integrity. And that decision led to isolation, black, and silence. Eddie Griffin remembers those late-night calls from Malcolm Jamal Warner. Calls where his voice was trembling, desperate, paranoid. Eddie Griffin wiped away his tears as he recalled. He told me they were watching him, recording him, following him. At the time, it sounded like paranoia. Now it sounds like a warning we ignored. Then Malcolm Jamal Warner just disappeared. No drama, no tabloid scandal, no rehab meltdown. He just slipped away. Not a single press release, no tribute, no funeral. Can you even imagine that? A man like Malcolm Jamal Warner, a true cultural icon, just vanishes without a word from the media. Not TMZ, not Variety, not a peep from anyone. What? Because they didn't want anyone asking the right questions. If the public started probing, truths might start spilling out. So, they wrapped it all in silence. A silence so deafening it screamed. And now, Eddie Griffin is letting that scream out. His soul is screaming as he sobs. I should have protected him. His voice cracking so badly the host had to pause the recording. I should have done something, anything. The podcast wasn't supposed to be about Malcolm Jamal Warner. It was supposed to be a light-hearted chat about Eddie Griffin's comedy tour, but the moment Malcolm Jamal Warner's name came up, Eddie Griffin froze, then shattered. He started exposing how the industry works, how they build you up, only to tear you down, especially if you stop playing by their rules. They don't kill you with a gun. Oh no, they kill you with silence, with isolation, with the crushing weight of despair. Malcolm Jamal Warner felt it all day after day until, eventually, the calls stopped. No offers, no interviews, no stage, just a deafening, suffocating silence. But here's the kicker, that silence. It wasn't an accident. Eddie Griffin says Malcolm Jamal Warner's own family was pushed into keeping everything under wraps. Payouts, contracts, NDAs, whatever it took to keep the noise from getting too loud. And why? Because noise brings attention. And attention brings exposure. Eddie Griffin tried to reach out to Malcolm Jamal Warner's wife, or at least the woman he believed was still standing by him in his final days. The response he got, it hit him like a punch to the gut. She told him, "Let it go, Eddie. It's too big. You can't fight it." So, what exactly was it? That's the question on everyone's mind now. Eddie Griffin hinted at something darker, something lurking in the shadows, but undeniably real. He didn't drop names, but he didn't have to. He simply said, the people who silenced Malcolm Jamal Warner, they're still out there. They're still pulling the strings. And if you talk too much, they'll come for you too. Then, with his eyes bloodshot from grief and fear, Eddie Griffin locked eyes with the camera and said, "But I'm done being afraid." He wasn't just mourning a friend. No, he was confessing to a crime he didn't commit, but one he felt guilty for witnessing. We all watched him drown, and not one of us threw a lifeline. Think about it. How does a man as famous, as adored, as iconic as Malcolm Jamal Warner just disappear? And the world just moves on. No questions, no justice, no goodbye, just ... silence. But now, that silence is cracking. Eddie Griffin is the one screaming the truth. And once you hear it, you'll never be able to unhear it. This wasn't just some random accident. This wasn't some natural event. Oh no, this was a calculated disappearance. A quiet execution carried out by a system terrified of men who dare to think, speak, and live with truth. Malcolm Jamal Warner didn't die from drugs. He didn't die from scandal. He didn't die from madness. No, he died from being ignored, from being shut out, from being erased, piece by piece, until there was nothing left. No spotlight, no platform, no peace. And now, Eddie Griffin is left carrying that burden because the truth refuses to stay buried any longer. The weight of that truth, it's not just about Malcolm Jamal Warner. It's for every artist who's been pushed aside, silenced, or buried in darkness just for daring to say no. The world saw Malcolm Jamal Warner smiling on screen, but behind that grin, behind those dimples, was a man slowly cracking. We saw him laugh on camera, but off-screen, he was slipping through the cracks and heard unseen, and eventually, unwanted. Now, Eddie Griffin is pulling back the curtain. He was alone. That's what killed him. The silence, the isolation, the betrayal, and what Eddie Griffin revealed next. Nobody was ready for it. He said there were nights Malcolm Jamal Warner would sleep on the floor, not because he didn't have money. No, he slept on the floor because he felt like the walls were closing in on him. He told Eddie Griffin, "Eddie, they bugged my apartment. I feel them in the walls. I can't breathe at night." And what did the industry do? They laughed. They called him paranoid. They labeled him as unstable, as bitter, as washed up. But now, looking back, Eddie Griffin says it wasn't paranoia. It was real, and we let him die thinking he was crazy. Malcolm Jamal Warner once confided in a close friend who shared this story anonymously that he believed his phone was tapped. He said producers would call him, referencing private conversations he had with his wife. They spoke about things he never shared publicly, and that's when he knew. He knew they were listening, watching, waiting for what? For him to slip, for him to break, for him to give them a reason to bury him for good. But Malcolm Jamal Warner, he never gave them that satisfaction. Nah, Malcolm Jamal Warner didn't spiral. He didn't lose control. He didn't get violent, addicted, or reckless. No, he just went quiet. And that silence, they used it to erase him completely. Eddie Griffin recalled the last time he saw Malcolm Jamal Warner in person. It wasn't at some glamorous event. It wasn't on set. It was in a small, forgotten coffee shop tucked away in the heart of LA. Malcolm wore a hoodie and sunglasses, constantly glancing over his shoulder. He looked terrified. He didn't want to be seen. Eddie Griffin remembered. He kept repeating, "They're still out there. They never stop." Eddie Griffin said Malcolm Jamal Warner's hands were shaking. As he sipped his coffee, he barely smiled. He looked like a ghost in his own body, breathing, but not truly living. And perhaps the most heart-wrenching part, Malcolm Jamal Warner knew he was disappearing. He saw the industry shutting doors in front of him. He watched as the offers stopped coming. He felt the eyes turn away. And yet, he never begged. He never sold out. He never betrayed who he was. Even as the silence consumed him, he held on to his truth. Then, during the podcast, Eddie Griffin said something that shook the internet. He looked directly into the camera and said, "Malcolm Jamal Warner was too real for fake people. And in this business, that's a death sentence." But the story doesn't end there. Oh no, there was another twist. One so dark, so cruel, it barely seems real. Eddie Griffin claims Malcolm Jamal Warner was working on a tell-all book, a manuscript, raw, unfiltered, a direct shot at the system that broke him. But before it could be published, it disappeared, gone from his computer, gone from his backups. Even the physical pages vanished from his apartment. Eddie Griffin believes someone wiped it clean, professionally. Malcolm Jamal Warner told him, "If anything happens to me, they did it, and they'll make it look like I did it to myself." Let that sink in. He knew something was coming, and he knew the world would buy the version they sold. Media, silent, still silent. No headlines, no retrospectives, no what happened to Malcolm Jamal Warner. Malcolm Jamal Warner's features. Yeah, they don't want you asking questions. Because asking questions means finding answers, and finding answers means shining a light into Hollywood's darkest corners. And guess what? No one wants that. So, they stay quiet, just like they did when he vanished. Just like they did when he was begging for help and nobody listened. There are rumors, unconfirmed but deeply disturbing, that Malcolm Jamal Warner once tried to file a legal complaint against a major network. He never dropped names, but in a private email, he wrote, "They want to break me because I wouldn't bend." And then, his number stopped working. His social media went dead, and just like that, no one saw him again. Eddie Griffin isn't selling a book. He's not hyping up a documentary. He's not chasing clout. He's mourning. He's confessing. He's finally screaming into a silence that's lasted way too long. And now, fans are starting to wake up. Comment sections, they're flooded with heartbreak. Why didn't we notice? How did we let him slip away? Malcolm Jamal Warner deserved better. Damn right, he did. He deserved celebration. He deserved the truth. He deserved protection. But instead, he got a cold eraser. A quiet cancellation, not on paper but in spirit. And here's the most chilling truth. Eddie Griffin left us with, Malcolm Jamal Warner's story isn't unique. No, it's just the one Eddie Griffin couldn't ignore anymore. Which means this. This could be happening right now, to someone else, to someone you love, someone you're watching. Because once you speak truth in an industry built on illusion, you're not just fired, you're buried. Malcolm Jamal Warner should have been celebrated for a lifetime. Instead, he became a cautionary tale whispered in back rooms, a ghost in the machine. And now, Eddie Griffin is risking it all to say his name, to tell the truth, to demand that we finally see what we chose to ignore. Because this wasn't fate. This was a system at work. A system that knew exactly how to silence a soul without ever lifting a hand. And now, that silence, it's cracking. Eddie Griffin has spoken. And once you hear it, you can't unhear it. The truth is like a mirror sometimes. It shatters when you finally stare into it. And now, that mirror is shattered wide open because Eddie Griffin isn't just exposing what happened to Malcolm Jamal Warner. He's exposing all of us. Our silence, our complicity, our failure to ask, where did he go? And why wasn't anyone screaming when he left? In the final moments of that no viral podcast, Eddie Griffin's voice dropped to a whisper. He looked away from the camera, then said something that sent shockwaves through the internet. There's something I've never told anyone, not even his family. The host sat in stunned silence. The room went cold. Then Eddie Griffin reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a letter. A single folded page, handwritten, faded, torn at the edges. It was from Malcolm Jamal Warner, and it was dated 2 months before his disappearance. The letter wasn't a goodbye. It wasn't a suicide note. No, it was a warning. A chilling, bone-deep message from a man who knew exactly what was happening to him. It read, "If they find this, then they failed. If you're reading this, you're the only one left who didn't sell me out. They don't need to kill me. They just need you to forget me. Don't let them." Eddie Griffin stopped reading. He couldn't go on. He held the page to his chest and broke down in real time. And the internet broke down with him. The clips spread like wildfire. #Justice for Malcolm started trending within hours. Fan pages, old Cosby Show clips, interviews, everything resurfaced. People woke up. They cried. They questioned. Because now it was no longer a mystery. It was a tragedy with a face, a voice, and a final, devastating plea. Don't let them forget me. And yet, the industry still hasn't said a word. No official statement. No follow-up from his former castmates. Not even a whisper from the networks he helped make millions for. Nothing. Because they're betting on silence again. Just like they did before. But this time, the silence is screaming. Fans have started digging old emails, deleted blog posts, archived interviews. One clip from 2013 shows Malcolm Jamal Warner being ... Malcolm Jamal Warner was interviewed on a red carpet once. The reporter asked, "What's next for you?" Malcolm Jamal Warner paused. He looked straight into the camera, his smile fading, his voice dropping. "Whatever I do next," he said, "it'll be on my own terms, or not at all." That clip has gone viral again. Why? Because now, we finally understand what he meant. He knew, he saw it coming, and he accepted it. Not because he was weak, but because he refused to become something he wasn't. This wasn't just a man disappearing. This was a man choosing dignity over survival, truth over comfort, legacy over fame, and he paid the price. His name, his peace, his futurist, like he never existed. Eddie Griffin's voice came back to the mic in the final moments of the podcast. His face was pale, tears still streaking his cheeks. And then he said something no one will ever forget. If they can do that to Malcolm Jamal Warner, imagine what they've already done to the others. He named no names. He didn't have to, because suddenly, faces flashed across everyone's mind. Talents who vanished. Legends who went quiet. Icons who were silenced before they could speak their truth. This is bigger than Malcolm Jamal Warner. But Malcolm Jamal Warner was the start. The one we ignored. The one we failed. And now, we have to live with that. We have to live with the fact that we scrolled past his last posts. That we didn't notice when the lights went out on his career. That we never asked, where did he go? Because they trained us to forget. To accept disappearance as normal. To trade memory for entertainment. But not this time. Not anymore. Eddie Griffin ended the podcast with one final plea. Don't just remember Malcolm Jamal Warner. Fight for him. Ask questions. Say his name. Because this isn't just about mourning. It's about accountability. It's about truth. It's about the industry's rot and how deep it goes. And now you know. You've heard the letter. You've seen the breakdown. You felt the pain, didn't you? So don't walk away. Don't close that tab and scroll on like nothing happened. Because silence is what killed him. And your voice might just be what keeps his memory alive. Malcolm Jamal Warner didn't die from an overdose. He didn't die from scandal. He didn't die by accident. He was erased, intentionally, methodically, brutally, by a system designed to chew up the real ones and spit out their quiet, forgotten corpses. But now, the truth is louder than it's ever been. Don't let them bury it again. Let this video be the funeral they never gave him. Let these views be the crowd that never gathered. Let this moment, right now, be the tribute he never received. Malcolm Jamal Warner gave us everything and they took it all away. Now it's time we take it back. If you watched this and felt that lump in your throat, if your chest feels heavy, if you're sitting there asking yourself, how did we let this happen, then don't scroll away. This isn't just a story. This is a scream, a confession, a funeral that never happened. They never gave Malcolm Jamal Warner a goodbye, no tribute, no justice, no peace. But you right now, you can give him something they tried to erase forever: his voice. Share this video, comment his name, flood every corner of the internet with the truth they buried, because silence is what killed him, and your voice might be what finally sets him free. Let them know we haven't forgotten. Let them know we see what they did. Let them know his legacy won't die in the shadows. They erased him once, let's bring him back with fire. This isn't just about Malcolm Jamal Warner. It's about every soul they silenced, every artist every truth teller they broke. Don't let this end here. Subscribe not for content, but for conscience. Like not for numbers, but for memory. Comment not for clout, but for closure. Because sometimes, one click is louder than a scream. And tonight, let the whole damn world hear it say his name. Say it loud, say it like they tried to make you forget. Malcolm Jamal Warner. He mattered. And now, he's rising again.